All right, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Expert Roundtable, Tackling Sustainable Water Supply and Wastewater Treatment in South Africa. I welcome you all to our webinar, and we would like to just begin by quickly speaking about the ground rules for today. So my name is Vera Massey, and I will be moderating the event today. I'm the Water Portfolio Manager for the Southern African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And before we begin, I would like to remind you that this meeting is being recorded, and we will also be publishing the recording online. So if you do not agree with that, then it would be time to leave the meeting now. We will be sharing the recording with you after the event, and you will be able to also watch it after, or please also share the link with other people that you might think missed it and could be interested. Yeah, so your cameras and microphones are muted, so please use the Q&A session, Q&A function on the side to ask the panelists any questions that you might have. This webinar is the third in a series of 4 events. They are leading up to the IFAD Africa, where that will be taking place in Johannesburg in July 2025. So this year, this webinar series is brought to you by the Bavarian Ministry of Economic Affairs and the Bavarian Office in South Africa, in cooperation with the Bavarian State Ministry of Environment and Consumer Protection, as well as the Water Technology Transfer Network. We'd like to thank all the panelists for making the time to engage with our stakeholders, with our plentiful stakeholders, and to our listeners, we hope that you find this event very informative and that we look forward to our continued engagement with you all. Without further ado, we shall begin with the official welcome by Georg Schmidt. He's the Senior Ministerial Advisor of the Bavarian Ministry of Economic Affairs. And please take the stage, Georg.
Yes, thank you very much. A very warm welcome, a very warm winterly welcome from Bavaria. We from the Bavarian Ministry of Economic Affairs have designed this webinar together with the German Chamber. Why? We think that the water issue is an ideal field for cooperation between our state and South Africa. And we do think and we do hope that we can bring something to the table. Bavaria is Germany's economic powerhouse, and if we were an independent country, our GDP would rank 6th among the EU 27, so we just rank behind the Netherlands. South Africa is by far our most important economic partner in sub-Saharan Africa, and Bavarian companies like BMW, Siemens, and Huber will probably be known to you. Our companies and research institutes are particularly strong in environmental technologies, and not to forget our greatest flagship, Bayern Munich, who made it into the Champions League round of 16. Yesterday, they actually kicked out Celtic Glasgow. So there's room for celebration. Our interest in water will bring us to South Africa soon. We'll visit IFAD Africa this July with a business delegation that will be headed by our Vice Minister. And I think that the visit will be an excellent opportunity to establish or deepen relationships with the business or public partners, especially in Gauteng and Western Cape. These 2 provinces have had partnerships with Bavaria for 3 decades. So we are looking forward to meeting some of you in person. Now, I look forward to an interesting webinar, but let me first bring you to Simone Pohl, the CEO of the Southern African German Chamber of Commerce and Commerce and Industry, and official representative, of course, of the state of Bavaria in South Africa. So she wears 2 hats, and the second one simply belongs to Bavaria. The floor is yours, Simone.
Thank you so much, Georg. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. And it's a pleasure, welcoming you all here to this information session and expert roundtable on sustainable water supply and public wastewater treatment in South Africa. As Georg said, we are here at the German Chamber of Commerce here in Southern Africa, and we are the official representative of the German business community and the German economy here in Southern Africa. And we are supporting the companies when entering or expanding here into the market and into the region. So for us, it is all about fostering bilateral relationships. I'm also, as Georg mentioned, the appointed representative of the Bavarian state here in South Africa, and especially supporting Bavarian economic interest in South Africa. And I have to say on a personal note, as I was born and raised in Bavaria, that is even a wonderful pleasure for me doing this and wearing these two hats. So, and within the context of this representation, we have been and we will continue supporting the Bavarian Ministry of Economic Affairs in these planned activities relating to the topic of water management in South Africa. So today's expert roundtable on the topic, we will focus on public water supply and wastewater management in South Africa. We have experts from South Africa and Bavaria that will share their insights on addressing physical water losses in our water networks. And we have a focus on how the city of Cape Town actually is tackling this issue. Our speakers from the city of Cape Town, they will highlight their plans for repairing and upgrading their water supply infrastructure, as well as wastewater treatment plants. To ensure that cities, ladies and gentlemen, supply these services and these vital services to their people, we also need to address the topic of skill shortage in the public sector. And we have Umgeni Water Services. They will share their plans in addressing this challenge. And then also in closing, we have the plant manager of the Gersthofen wastewater treatment plant in Bavaria. It is a town in Bavaria who will share with us what kind of skills they deploy there to operate wastewater treatment plants reliably and efficiently. So for me, it's to say a big thank you, first of all, to the Bavarian Ministry of Economic Affairs and the state of Bavaria. Georg, thank you so much for the support of, these programs over the year and also last year. A big thank you to the city of Gersthofen, a big thank you to the city of Cape Town for the excellent cooperation, to Umgeni Water Services and all the Bavarian companies that are speakers. And last but not least, also a big thank you to Vera Massi, our very own Vera Massi, at the German Chamber. She is the water expert here in our competence center, climate and environment. And Vera, thank you so much for putting this all together. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get going on this without any further ado. Back to Vera. And I hope to see all of you at IFAD Africa in July of this year in Johannesburg. Thanks a lot and have a great event.
Thank you so much, Simona. Great. I think without further ado, let's start. I actually have a little task for the audience before we begin with the presentations and the address from the Department of Water and Sanitation. I would like to ask you, the audience, to answer two questions. We'll be using Slido, which is built into Teams. So hopefully for most of you who are not, who are dialing in from a computer, will be fine to use. I will activate the poll, and then you will receive a card in a separate chat channel on your Teams chat, and then you can click on that and vote, and then also watch the results come in the same window. My first question, I'm going to launch this now. My first question is, will you be visiting the IFAD Africa in Johannesburg from the 8th to the 10th of July? And the different answers are, yes, I wouldn't miss it. No, maybe, unsure if I can make it. I need more information to decide. So please, if you can vote, if possible. Thank you so much. I'll give you a minute to do that. The votes are coming in. So far, I'm liking what I'm seeing. There's maybe and yes, I wouldn't miss it are about equal. So hopefully the yes, I wouldn't miss it will still increase. I think the answers are still coming in, so I'm not going to stop quite yet. Another 30 seconds. I think some people are also typing in the chat. I see some yeses coming in, so perhaps the Slido isn't working for them. So it's good to see that there are a few more yeses also coming in on the chat. That's great. So yeah, I think at the moment we can see that there are very few no's. That's great. About 33% are saying yes, they wouldn't miss it. And there's some people that have said that they need more information to decide. So I encourage you to go to the EFAT Africa website, have a look what's on offer there. It's an exciting program. And what's great about it is that the entry for visitors is free, so you don't have to pay. Obviously, if you are wanting to exhibit, then you would have to register. But if you just want to visit in Johannesburg, just stick your head in. It's a super platform that's increasing every time the event happens. Right, so I think we can stop this poll now, and we will move on to the next question. It will be interesting to see what comes of it, because it might be a little bit tricky, but I think we are not just experts that are speaking today on the panels, but also there's lots of experts sitting in the room, of whom I know many of you. And I would like to know from you what kind of technologies or methods you believe are the most critical in advancing our water treatment and our wastewater treatment technologies for plants in South Africa. So if you can just choose a word, a technology or a method, and type that into the word cloud, that would be really fantastic. I'll give you a minute to write something there. Very interesting to see what's coming in. I think this is sort of a result that I was imagining would happen. There are so many different things that are needed, and currently there's nothing that is sort of standing out as a very big word, but I think ultrafiltration is starting to show itself as a central topic, which is very interesting. Membrane bioreactors is also coming in, MBR, same. Other things that we are saying is remote monitoring. I think is also really important. RO will be coming in. And reuse, recovery. I think the words are still coming in, so I'm going to let that go for another minute. I think ultrafiltration is still winning the competition at this point. Yeah, I think it's stabilizing. So thank you very much, everyone, for playing along with us. And I think we can start now with our, oh, hang on, it's still changing. 10 more seconds, and then we're going to close. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we can start. And to begin our excellent speaker lineup, I'd like to give the floor to Annette Muir. She's the Chief Director for Water Use Compliance and Enforcement at the Department of Water and Sanitation. And Annette will be giving you a short keynote address to set the scene for the panel discussions. So yeah, the floor is yours, Annette. Thank you very much. I think you're still muted, Annette.
Yes, I was. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us at the panel discussion. I was asked to provide an overview in a very short period of time, so let's get into it. South Africa has initiated a DROPS program to help monitor the performance of our municipalities, and we have 3 DROPS that serves this purpose. The first one being the blue drop that looks at our drinking water quality, the green drop looking at wastewater, and then no drop looking at water use efficiency and specifically non-revenue water. We have 144 water services authorities in the country. So not all 256 municipalities are doing water services provision. And these drops then assess the 144 municipalities in terms of their performance. Now, to help me with the time management, I need to share some maps with you. The first one being the blue drop map. We have criteria that we assess our municipalities on. We have a scorecard that then classifies these municipalities based on the different assessments. So we look at capacity, we look at the skills available to manage the works, we look at the financial resources, and we look at the quality of the drinking water. In South Africa, unfortunately, we have challenges in the area, specifically red and yellow, indicating poor and critical performance of municipal systems in providing drinking water. It is limited to our more rural areas with the more urban provinces and where our metropolitan municipalities are having better drinking water quality. In terms of this, there's also support from water boards. The 7 water boards also provide assistance to our municipalities. We have 958 systems in the country. For those that are in critical state, the 277, they are requested to provide or required to provide us with action plans to address their performance. In terms of no drop, this is a very violent map. South Africa is a very water short country, and yet we are not treating water very respectfully. We have a very high level of non-revenue water with an average of 47.4% in the country. Even provinces like KwaZulu-Natal that has got more water-rich province, the non-revenue water is sitting there at 60.5%. So this is potable water that is provided to our municipalities that is either lost through physical losses or through metering or non-metering, as well as unauthorized connections. If we look at our wastewater systems, the map is unfortunately a bit also on the red and yellow side. In 2022, we produced our green drop report. 334 systems out of 855 were critical. So we see that our drinking water is treated a bit more in a higher priority than our wastewater. Unfortunately, this also has a negative impact on our drinking water, because if we look at the highest risk of our pollutants, E. coli is throughout the country one of our highest priority pollutants. We obviously also a country that has got mining resources, platinum, gold, and coal, that also contributes to the water conditions. We also then have an agricultural rich country, which also contributes to agricultural runoff, contributing to the pollution in our water resources. That is it for the maps that I wanted to share. And then lastly, we're busy with reforms from our Water Act and from our Water Services Act to strengthen our compliance and enforcement. And specifically for our municipalities, we are also including a licensing system to look at the skills and capacity of our water services providers. In terms of legislation, our authorities need to set the bylaws and the policies for tariffs, and they don't necessarily have to provide that function themselves when it comes to the water services provider. But most of our municipalities are deciding on doing that work themselves. And as we can see from the drops, they're not always able to do that function. So the licensing system that we want to introduce wants to bring in the competency processes for our municipalities. And I think that is my 5 minutes. I think I went 1 minute over. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Annette. I think this was a very succinct demonstration of also for our German participants to show that we are collecting data in South Africa. And I think data is one of the most important tools that we can use to try and get a grip on the situation. So also in the word cloud, I would have liked to see the word data feature a little bit higher, because I think that is critical. So if we know where we're at and if we know where we want to go, then that's a very good start. And then we can have a look at the things that we can do to make it better. So thank you very much, Annette. I think that was a fantastic overview. of the situation. And I think we can now hone in on Cape Town. But before I begin, I would like to introduce three of our speakers that will be speaking to the topic of non-revenue water with a focus on physical losses. Actually, I am going to introduce all speakers for this whole section, which also includes the wastewater component. So we're going to start with Keith Olsen, Program Manager for Wastewater City of Cape Town. Then we also have Christopher Norman, Head of Projects and Implementation in the Wastewater Branch at the City of Cape Town. And then Diego Escutia, International Sales Manager for the Water Division of the Bavarian company SIBA KMT, a member of the Mega Group. SIBA KMT is a pioneer in the development and manufacture of measuring systems for water leak detection and water loss reduction. And then finally, Gert de Koop, representing the Bavarian company Huber, as the project manager of Huber South Africa. Huber is very well known in South Africa in the public sector for their high quality machines, plants, and stainless steel equipment, which are already installed in many South African wastewater treatment plants. So these are going to be our four speakers for the next for this coming segment. And I think I can just quickly say a few words to introduce the non-revenue water side for Cape Town. As we just saw, Cape Town, I'm not sure if you remember the table, but I think the best performing province on the no drop side was in fact the Western Cape, and Cape Town is specifically doing well in terms of fighting non-revenue water. It is still high at 27.6%. I believe that was in 2023, but I also know, because I live in Cape Town, that the City of Cape Town has been doing quite a lot of repairs and upgrades of water lines. I know because we do get scheduled shutdowns, and I always say thank you very much. I don't mind not having water for a few hours in a day if I know that the lines are being maintained. So that is my view from Cape Town, where I live. But I think we need to hear from Cape Town themselves. So I would like to ask Chris to take the stage. And my question to you is, what are the current levels of water losses in the City of Cape Town? And what plans does the City of Cape Town have to reduce those as much as possible, considering that you're already performing quite well in comparison to the rest of the country? What are some of the challenges that the city is experiencing? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for having us. We collaborate with Germany and the German suppliers on quite a few projects. We also collaborate with the KfW German Development Bank. They've helped co-fund a couple of our projects. So we're always happy to meet with you guys and show off what we're doing here. I think what would be helpful is just to give some context to Cape Town to understand our unique situation and our circumstances, and understand why we have a certain relationship with water. The City of Cape Town, I'm not sure, can everyone see this slide?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So we receive most of our water just from surface water, from rainfall. It relies on winter rainfall. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's been the way it's done for almost 200 years. But we had a drought from 2014 to around about 2018, where it was quite an extreme drought. We were approaching almost having no water. And different to sort of what's happening up in Gauteng at the moment, we were actually running out of the water itself. Not that our system wasn't capable of delivering the water. We actually had a serious problem of the resource itself. So we learned some hard lessons. So what we had is actually a crisis, and we couldn't let a good crisis go to waste. So we developed all sorts of schemes and plans, and this really shaped our water strategy from 2018, 2019 onwards. And it's how we kind of look at water now. So firstly, we look at water conservation, and it's done quite significantly through human behavior and certain measures such as tariffs. Tariffs need to cover the cost of producing the water as well as making provision for future capacity, and also needs to prohibit wastage, etc. And that was hugely effective. demand management, which covers specifically this topic that we're looking at now, and that is the integrity of your water reticulation system, especially water losses. And then augmentation we'll cover later. And then as well as disaster planning, all our modeling, planning, analysis, we all factor in sort of climate change factor. And we assume that our current supply right now in terms of groundwater and surface water is going to reduce by at least 25%. So we've factored this all into our various growth models and planning. This just shows how we managed to reduce the demand. We actually reduced our demand on our network by 55% during the drought through various things. And it did include just even fixing the networks and making sure the networks retain the water that's been produced. And this is a couple of the interventions. You can see that sort of decline on the right in terms of consumption. You can see the red dots, the consumption sort of before we introduced tariffs and then after tariffs and various initiatives. So just going straight to non-revenue water and water losses. This is from the DWC website. This is 2023, very similar to what Annette showed now, but yeah, you can see Western Cape. We have been looking to protect our water resources and optimize them for quite some time, and we are performing very well because we are a water scarce region, more so than other parts of the country. We've already discussed the distinction between non-revenue water and water losses. Water losses make up the most significant element of non-revenue water, and we have quite a well-maintained network and plans to expand this network and upgrade it. According to the DWS 2023 stats, non-revenue water is about 20% and losses were about 15%. The latest stats, although we've implemented all sorts of measures and interventions, the stats have actually decreased, and it's exactly what you said earlier. Non-revenue water is about 26.7% for Cape Town, and basically around about 20% is losses. The reason for that is because as we install more equipment, more accurate meters, we're having to reconfigure that water balance, and that's why it's gone up. We've implemented various plans. We've broken up the whole water network into different districts where they're measured. We know where the water's going, what it's doing, where there are losses, different zones. We've also got pressure management zones. So if leaks are identified, we can reduce the pressure. Pressure reduction has been shown to be the most significant sort of intervention we can implement to reduce leaks through damaged pipes, etc. And we have about 70% of our current network already covered by pressure management systems. And we're also investing a lot of money in leak detection, maintenance, meter replacement, all these various things. And here you can see just the last water balance breakdown, both in terms of the city's breakdown and the International Water Association's balance. This was until June 2024, so it's not exactly the latest results, but we're busy consolidating the latest results, but it's very similar. The last year and this year, the non-revenue water has pretty much stabilized around about 26%. And that's that on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christopher. Really informative. And even though I had in mind that this would be a panel discussion, I'm realizing that this is quite a technical topic. So I think the presentation is really great. And I'm sure everybody will be very happy if you would be able to share those presentations with the audience later as well. So thank you very much, Christopher. I think the City of Cape Town is doing great work. And I think I would like to now go over to Bavaria. So Diego, I would like to give you the floor. And my question to you is, how can a water service provider reduce water losses in a distribution system? And I'd like you to, from your experience, to tell us what kind of solutions are available, and specifically sort of focusing on what are the quick fixes, because I would assume that there are low-hanging fruit that one can implement, and then there are sort of like the Rolls-Royce options that you could also look at. So I'm sure that you dabble in both of these. So if you can share some of your experience, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So for immediate action, I would recommend, as Christopher is already doing over there in South Africa, is to apply pressure management systems in different parts of the city, if possible, or at least in each DMA. This reduces immediately the amount of water loss in the non-consumption time of the day. For example, by reducing the pressure at night and leaving at the minimum required, the amount of water losses will decrease. Let's be clear. I'm not saying the leakages will disappear, only the amount of water losses will decrease. It is not the same amount of water being lost with a pressure of 4 or 5 bars than with 1.5 bars. Following that, I will suggest to follow the best practices of the recommendation of the International Water Association. This is basically divided into 3 steps. First of all, permanent monitoring. Here, products such as flow meters, pressure loggers, and of course, noise loggers such as martyrs, these help you to allocate or to find in a bigger area in less time where the possible leakage can be happening. Second part will be pre-location. Once the segment where leakages might be happening, thanks to the monitoring, are located, the use of devices such as acoustic correlators, such as Corelux C3, are quite important because with this, we find where the leakage is really happening. And third, of course, the pinpointing devices. When we talk about pinpointing, we're basically talking about, or people think about the geophone or ground microphones, for example, the HL7000. You may ask, why should we do this if we already found the leakages using a correlator? Well, there's a simple reason for this. It is less expensive to do more measurements and locate the exact point where the leakage is happening as to simply break the asphalt and dig in a spot for 50 and 50 centimeters than to dig a bigger hole or even destroy the whole street and change to try to find where the possible leakage is happening. Every time I do conferences all around the world, there is a misperception that there is only one product or only one solution that will help you allocate all the leakages that are happening all around the city. But it's not only one product or one solution. It's a combination of different solutions. We haven't reached the point. All of successful stories go hand by hand, combining solutions. If you combine, I don't know, from traditional leak detection devices such as ground microphones, or even the new solutions such as finding water through the satellite systems. So most combinations, and of course, follow a line. Those are best practices of the International Water Association is like the most thing I can recommend, because we've seen already through the history several successful stories. But of course, it takes time to adapt this methodology, but it'll be worth, and the benefits will be more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diego. Do you, I don't want to put you on the spot now, but I'm sort of wondering what countries are you most active in as SEBA KMT, and have you dealt with any municipalities that are in such a state as ours? Because you saw the map, how red it is, and I think Annette called it violently red. So have you dealt with municipalities such as those and helped them to get better?
Yeah, I would say from my experience, I've been traveling around the globe. I've seen cases with non-revenue water of reaching almost 70%, 70. And of course, some countries that reach, for example, even here in Germany, we have certain cities are quite more efficient than others. So it's quite complicated to give an exact solution, as you mentioned, which is the Rolls Royce to find one solution that will help to allocate everything. But from my experience and what I've seen, first of all, the pressure control systems is one of they give bigger results. And with this way, the water company or the utility can be invoicing more. Like I always do in my conference, I always do a quite good example. When we talk about water loss or water losses, we talk about percentages. It's really easy to mention 50%, 30%, 70%, and we talk about water. But what happens if we make it more visual, these water losses? We don't talk about water, we talk about cars. What happens if we produce in Germany 100 VNWs, and we send it to South Africa. And in the transportation, we lose 50. We deliver only 50 cars. Exactly, that is the expression. If we talk about water, a number is really easy to mention. If we talk about cars, sometimes it hurts a bit more, right?
That's a very, very good example. I think just to illustrate that water is a product and you don't really want to use 50% of your product. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of South Africans whose hearts would bleed if they saw 50% of the BMWs getting lost somewhere. So yeah, that's a very, very good analogy. And also it's great to hear that, City of Cape Town is focusing on the thing that you find really important, which is the pressure management. I think the percentage of City of Cape Town Christopher said that 70% of the area in Cape Town is being pressure managed. So I think City of Cape Town, you're on the right track by the sound of things. So that's fantastic. Great. Thank you very much, Diego, for that.
Thank you.
For sharing that. And I think we can move on to the next segment. And that will be the City of Cape Town again. And this time we would like to look at the planned infrastructure upgrades for water supply and wastewater management in the continuously growing population of City of Cape Town. I did have some specific questions, but I think I'm just going to leave it up to you and your presentation. I think we were sort of wanting to look at a bit of investment, like what's planned and what kind of upgrades, and also perhaps, if you can, a couple of talking about some pollutants that are posing specific challenges in the treatment processes for water and wastewater treatment. So yeah, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So the City of Cape Town has quite an ambitious infrastructure pipeline over the next 10 years. In fact, the most investment in the country in infrastructure, about 120 billion over the next 10 years, has been committed, with water and sanitation receiving about 42% of that, kind of in the region of 50 billion. Our main focus really is wastewater. Of that 50 billion, we've got about 20 billion going into wastewater over the next 10 years. And that's just our capital budget. As you know, and this is not unique to Cape Town, all over the world, investment in wastewater has never quite kept pace with urbanization and maybe water, for example. So it's a challenge to play catch up. We can only do so much without dramatically increasing the tariffs. But we don't want to be like Eskom, so we try to keep it in a sort of range that's affordable to the consumers. So we're trying to find that balance. So we're basically doing all this investment in water and sanitation infrastructure to achieve various goals, such as the new water program, where we introduced additional water resources, just always ongoing replacement, upgrades, repairs. And a lot of our wastewater treatment works are hydraulically and organically overloaded, and they need to be upgraded, or they also need to be retrofitted to suit our schemes down the line that will use that treated effluent, whether it's for reuse, for potable or non-potable. There's a huge focus in wastewater. So this just shows our budget in wastewater over the next 10 years. You could see that gap there. We ended up removing about 5 billion just from this program. So this is basically the 120 billion program, but the portion for water and sanitation, but specifically wastewater. We have a very large project we had to take off the balance sheet. And we're exploring that through maybe like a public-private partnership type of arrangement. We're currently in the Section 78 approval process and feasibility study to see if that is reasonable. We also will possibly co-fund that through our partners at KfW, German Development Bank. This is our whole water and sanitation budget over the next 10 years, and that's a large portion that we are looking to take to alternative financing and alternative service delivery options. So these are all sorts of opportunities that are becoming in different forms, simply because there isn't just not enough budget, or not enough budget that can be raised quick enough. So we're looking at things like a massive reuse plant, desalination, etc. And these are the projects we are considering for this off the capital budget, balance sheet, public-private investments, where we would maybe pay a private party specific purpose vehicle to come with the capital, the investment, build some infrastructure, and then operate it over a long period. There's various advantages for that. And then this just shows our total capital budget for water and sanitation over the next 10 years. This is the 50 billion. And you can see in the outer years, we always have to adjust our capital budget based on affordability to our consumers. One of the things we're focusing on is water resource augmentation. You saw earlier that we basically relied on surface water, rainwater, and groundwater, which is hugely vulnerable to climate change. By 2040, we want to completely diversify our mix. We will be introducing desalination, groundwater, reuse, surface water. 2040 is also our goal when the whole city, water department specifically, is a water sensitive city. In other words, we're integrating all our different departments, whether that's stormwater, catchments, sustainable urban drainage, rainwater collection, runoff. Water won't be wasted. Everything will be used as much and far as possible. And that's a very ambitious goal of the city. This is one of our big plants. This would be the largest of its kind in the world that we've currently finished the design, and we're exploring how we could possibly implement this. This would be a 70 to 100 megaliter per day direct potable reuse plant. Another one is an aquifer recharge scheme, where we take the treated effluent from the wastewater treatment works and we'd actually pump it into the aquifer. We have a very large aquifer, which will be used as storage. It also does some sort of filtration and cleaning, and it will also protect the existing freshwater aquifer from the seawater intrusion. So these are various schemes, very large schemes that we are putting in place here in the city of Cape Town to diversify our water resource mix. And of course, desalination. It's probably more expensive than other options, but no water mix can really be diverse or resilient without having all of these options. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Keith, and he will discuss wastewater, which is our core function in the wastewater branch.
Keith, I'm not sure if we're not able to hear you, but I could see that you were trying to say something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. I'll go back.
Back. Okay, it's Keith Olsen here. I'll be looking at the sort of the wastewater treatment side of things and giving you an idea of what projects will be coming up in the next couple of years. But firstly, wastewater has many challenges, and our wastewater plants, in the city, we are probably the second highest user behind street lighting of electricity. So one of our challenges is to do waste to energy coming up in the future. And the other thing is we have historically underinvested, as Chris said previously, and we have capacity challenges and aging infrastructure. Our mechanical equipment maintenance is not of the best, and given the procurement system, we are very slow at reacting and replacing defective equipment. It's unfortunately the procurement system is basically inhibits us from reacting quick enough. Then one of the big things we have is a stormwater ingress into our wastewater network, and what you can see in the bottom left here is a inlet works of our Macassar wastewater treatment works. Which is basically served by pump stations, 2 different pump stations, and these guys at the pump stations just pump everything that they see, and then they flood our inlet works. So there's many challenges in terms of control of our network as well. Right. We have many issues amongst others in terms of what people put into the sewer network. And what actually gets received at our in-networks is not a first world environment. It's a first world environment with a third world component. And as you can see in the next slide, this is a screw pump and the bottom bearing and all the problems that we pick up. You'll see there's a crowbar amongst other things, and cable and a rubbish bin and things like that. It's not, wastewater treatment works can't be designed for events like that. Right. One of our other challenges is we have in Cape Town is we've got a quite a large informal settlement, which is ever expanding, and a lot of the settlements are not actually serviced properly, and some of the effluent obviously doesn't make it into the sewer network and finds its way into the water courses, which is not good for a typical plants like Zandvliet and Potsdam, where the plants get accused of polluting the river. In the meantime, it's what happens upstream. Okay, innovation, wastewater sludge treatment and disposal. That's one of our bigger challenges. There's legislation in place that we need to take all our sludges and treat it on site mostly. And we've sort of identified 3 regionalized beneficial biosolids beneficial facilities to be provided in the next 20 years, of which Cape Flats, which we are intending to go out on a public-private partnership, will be the first. So the biosolids beneficiation will have sludge pre-treatment, thermal hydrolysis, anaerobic digestion, dewatering, and hopefully waste to energy power generation. Treated effluent reuse. The drought 2014 to 2018 showed us that we need to make use of our treated effluent as a result of the water scarcity, and we got sort of 3 methods of doing this. Is direct potable reuse, which we're going to be implementing at Zandvliet. We're going to be building a 70 megaliter per day plant. Indirect potable reuse, that is what we're going to typically be doing at Cape Flats, where we're going to reuse and pump it back into the aquifer 60 megaliters of waste or treated effluent, which is treated almost up to potable water standards. We'll pump it back into the aquifer and pump it out a couple of, about, I think, 2 months later. Treated effluent reuse, third-party non-potable. The city sells treated effluent to third-party users who replace potable water for replacing potable water reuse. We've got industrial process water, irrigation, typically Durbanville farmers, toilet and urinal flushing, concrete mixing for construction purposes. Metered collection points are installed at most of the wastewater treatment works for collection by tankers. Treated effluent networks have been installed in some catchments where the treated effluent is piped to end users, of which Potsdam, which directly feeds a place like Canal Walk, and then sale of treated effluent and expansion of treated effluent network is administered by the water demand branch. Right, next. Current wastewater projects. At present, we're busy with the Potsdam wastewater treatment works. We're increasing the capacity from 47 to 100 megaliters a day. And we're going to be using advanced ultrafiltration membrane technology to produce high quality treated effluent. Amongst that, we're also going to be doing a 60 or 53 megaliter per day membrane plant. Then the expected completion of this would be in, I think, if I remember correctly, in November 28. Right. The next one is the phase 1, which is underway at the moment at Athlone, which is basically just replacement of blowers and fine bubble diffuse aeration. We move on to the refurbishment of the Belleville, which is also fine bubble diffusion and additional blowers. Westphalia, same thing, fine bubble diffusion and blowers. And you can see the estimated completion date and the money that we're going to be spending. Then future upgrades is Wilderful Flay. There we're going to be doing a upgrade of the dewatering facility and the aeration. Refurbishment of the marine outfalls. Cape Town's got 3 marine outfalls, Camps Bay, Hart Bay, and Greenpoint. We are going to be replacing the screens with the finer pitch screens, and then there's some aeration matters that need to be attended and odor control. Then the next big upgrade is the Macassar upgrade, which will happen hopefully by September of this year. We're going to take the capacity from 40 to 80 megalitres, and that would put us in a position to unlock development in the catchment, which is at present there's a moratorium on any further development in the Helderberg catchment. Right. Then upgrading of Mitchell's Plain, which is moved out to the financial year 2030-31, and there we're going to take up the capacity from 35 to 50 megalitres, and this is sort of in early stages, and we're sort of in the scoping at the moment. Then Athlone expansion, that's the second phase. That's increasing the capacity by 50 megalitres a day. Because of the costing, we've sort of broken it up into 2 phases, phase 2A and phase 2B, and you can see what we're going to be doing under each phase. And we hope to finish phase 2B, the last phase, by 2038-39. This is the Cape Flats Wastewater Treatment Works. This is the one that we intend putting out on a PPP. We're busy with the Section 78 3 feasibility study and waiting for the outcome and see if the PPP model is a viable option or not. And then we'll engage with the National Treasury and put it through all the National Treasury requirements. So that this scheme will have the managed aquifer recharge. We'll have to build a new inlet works. We're going to have to do sludge dewatering and energy recovery. Orchards Quarry, there's sort of a few items that are required there, of which one of them is the new inlet works, pollution facilities, improved odor removal, and we sort of estimate the completion in 34-35 financial year. And then the construction of the Belleville inlet works would happen and in conjunction with the membrane plant improvement. The membranes at Belleville need replacement, and the estimated start of construction is 31-32 and completion in financial year 33-34. Then capacity expansion at Westphalia, which is as both an industrial and a domestic works. We're going to be upgrading the sludge dewatering facility for the domestic and the industrial, increasing the overall domestic capacity and increasing the industrial capacity. but we're going to add additional primary settling and improve the effluent quality. And hopefully, if all goes well, we'll be finished and completed in financial year 34-35. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keith. That is quite an impressive list of projects, and I think people have already asked whether you would be willing to share this presentation. I said, of course, but obviously that'll be up to you. You know, if all this information, I assume, is shareable, so it would be great.
We'll share it.
Super. That's fantastic, because I think there's a lot of details in there, you know, that we might not be able to absorb during this meeting and remember it all. Really impressive list of projects, and I can see also you shared some, well, medium to longer term, so finishing projects in 10 years' time. There's a lot of planning that's going into it, and also I was quite interested to see that you are looking at a few PPPs, public-private partnerships. I'll be very interested to follow how that is going, also to find out about the feasibility of it. I think City of Cape Town is probably set up quite well for PPP. So yeah, it will be interesting to follow that space as well, because we do need the involvement of the private sector. So yes, I think there is a question on the chat, but I think I have noted it. It's about PFAS, but I would like to give, because we are running behind a little bit, I'd rather like to ask Gert to quickly speak about Huber and his activities in Cape Town, because I believe you have done a few projects here, and we'll get to the PFAS question perhaps right at the end, if that's all right, so that we give the other speakers first also time to speak. Thank you very much, City of Cape Town, and over to you, Gert.
Thank you, Vera. Yeah, I think Keith's presentation was very thorough, so most of what I needed to say was actually already done by him, so I'll just fill in the gaps. Just to introduce myself again, my name is Gert de Kok. I'm representing the Bavarian company Huber Technology in South Africa, and I'm the project manager for Huber Technology. So I'm more involved in the projects and the supplies at the projects, being involved on the ground. So I'm not very frequently speaking on forums like this, so please bear with me. And then our main focus in South Africa is over the past 30 years has been mostly in wastewater treatment plants in South Africa. We are involved in the industrial sector, but mostly it's municipal wastewater treatment works. Like I said, we've been in South Africa for about 30 years, so most of the people involved in wastewater in South Africa knows our product, knows our screens, and so yeah, we are well known. We have supplied screening and wastewater equipment to almost every town in the Western Cape over the past 30 years. The recent project that we've been busy with in the Western Cape is the Potsdam Wastewater Treatment Plant, as Keith was explaining. So we are not involved in the construction, anything. We are supplying products for various places. For one of them is we are supplying a disc filter called the Huber RO disc, which they will be using to screen the final effluent just before it goes to the ultrafiltration stage. We screen it up to 100 microns, and then from there it will pass into a sump where it gets pumped into the ultrafiltration. It's like a pre-screening stage for the ultrafiltration. It will be the first screen of its type in South Africa, so we are very anxious to see it start up and running in Potsdam, and hopefully we can also do that in the other plants in the future. Then the next area where we are involved in at Potsdam is degritting. As Keith also said, is that they are experiencing problems with stormwater ingress in most of the plants. I know for a fact that Zandvliet has a huge stormwater ingress problem, and so most of the plants. So with the stormwater, we get a lot of sand and degrit and grit and so on. And Huber has a very good product called the Vormax, the Huber Vormax, that we suck the fluidized grit out of a chamber, and then we put it through a grit classifier that dewaters it and disposes of the grit. The challenges that they are facing with the grit is obviously the huge abrasion that it has on the pumps and the belt presses and so on. And by removing the grit effectively in the inlet work stage is enhancing the performance of the plant. It also prevents settling of those grit and sand in your reactors and grit classifiers, and your clarifiers and so on, so that it doesn't reduce capacity. So by removing the grit and sand, I think we are optimizing the plant a lot. Then we are also proud to be involved in one of the new projects that Keith has spoken about. So we'll be supplying the Uber belt press to this project, and where it will be involved in sludge dewatering. So I know sludge dewatering is also very important for the city of Cape Town, so we hope to make a huge difference in the sludge dewatering area. Then furthermore, we are assisting City of Cape Town and Keith on looking at better ways to do screening at outfalls and various places. There is some places where the capacity needs to be increased tremendously, and space is quite a restriction. And before the civils can be accommodated, we are always looking for ways of installing newer types of screens and so on to accept the higher capacity flow and without changing the civil infrastructure at this point. Obviously, as a supplier to a municipal sector, we are dependent on government tenders and so on, and we are so thankful to be involved in a place like City of Cape Town and the Western Cape, where funding are being directed correctly in the right areas, and we can be involved in supplying our equipment. Thank you, Vera.
Thank you so much, Gert. Really interesting. In a way, it was quite useful to have those slides because we could remember the Potsdam plant
Yeah,
and
yeah.
could imagine the different places where you will be involved. So that's really, really great. I encourage you to ask questions also to Huber in the chat. If there are any further questions on the details, you can go ahead. So I think in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the next section. Thankfully, I had budgeted a little bit of extra time, so I think we will still be all right. I would like to move over to the next segment now. I think a very important aspect of running water and wastewater treatment plants is not only the technology and you know the management practices and the laws and regulations, but also skills. And I think we have a very first speaker today from Umgeni Water Services, Peter Thompson, who has been involved in building skills for quite some time at Umgeni. And I think why this is important is so that we can adequately capacitate and operate our water and wastewater treatment plants. So first, Peter Thompson will speak to us, and then after that, it will be from Germany, from Bavaria, Mr. Markus Titel. He is the plant manager at the wastewater treatment plant in Gersthofen, which is a town in the district of Augsburg in Bavaria. So let's start with Peter. Please, can you tell us more about the skills situation in South Africa when it comes to water and sanitation, and where are the gaps? What kind of professional education is currently required versus what changes do we need to make to the system that produces our water professionals? Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Vera. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. All right.
Okay. Yes, so I'm just going to look at the skills and discuss the skills. My name is Peter Thompson. I'm the Managing Director for Umgeni Water Services based in KwaZulu-Natal. The municipalities at the moment are in a catch-22 where they're suffering major water losses and non-revenue water collection, in some cases up to 50-60%, and in some of the metros this can range anything from 1 to 2 billion per annum. So it's a major loss. They also suffer a lot of challenges from revenue collection. This is through poor billing, water losses, revenue losses, and without this we are going to see the municipalities suffer without the requisite skills. In some cases, we've seen recently that the municipalities are owing 23 billion to water boards, and this is on increasing. Municipalities are also suffering budget constraints, and we've seen the president in SONA saying he's going to relook at the funding model for municipalities. Lastly, we're also seeing infrastructure deterioration with aging infrastructure, which leads to failures and worsening financial and operational challenges. On the skill side, I'm just showing a picture, 3 pictures ranging from the years 2005 to 2015. and lastly, the 2020. On the y-axis here, we've got an age profile on the 3 graphs, and on the bottom, we've got the number of engineers in red, the technicians in the orange, and technologists in blue. And what we are seeing is clearly evident if we look from 2005, just follow the engineers, you can see they've dropped drastically till virtually disappearing in 2020. Similarly, we've seen an increase in the technicians and the technologists, but we know we can't get the technicians and technologists executing some of the work that's needed in municipalities without the engineers providing that support. What are the engineering skills? We know the number of municipalities that are serving populations greater than 200,000 citizens has doubled in the last decade. We've also seen the municipalities with no civil engineers, with 0 civil engineers, increase from 126 to 202. And in 28 municipalities, they have no staff at all. There are 174 remaining municipalities. In these, 81 have only technicians, 17 have technologists, and 76 have a mixture of technicians and technologists. A really depressing state. What are the roles of the engineers? We know they are the innovators and are there to attend to complex problems and using advanced engineering principles. The technologists are there to implement some of these technologies and the designs, and the technicians are the backbone of the infrastructure support, managing operations and the maintenance. These certified or professional engineers are responsible for the larger installations in terms of operation as well. And it's important that municipalities have a hierarchy of these skills proportionally distributed amongst them. We've also seen the professionally registered staff have dropped from 450 to just under 300. Non-registered staff have increased from 1,400 to 2,094, and the average age has dropped from 46 to 38 age profile. Well, what are the risks and why would Umgeni Water get involved? Because they are just supplying the water to the municipalities at the moment. But these major challenges in service delivery represent a major risk to water utilities, especially to our mother body, Umgeni Utugela Water. This, coupled with this financial incapacity and the lack of appropriately skilled staff and the low levels of trust, we're seeing a lot of unrest and protest from people who are running out of water on a daily basis, which normally was in many of the rural areas, but now is spread to the cities, is going to result in the inability to collect revenue, and is going to present a risk if municipalities cannot pay the state utilities. We've come up with a model which we call our first line response team, where we're going to be spending a lot of time on education and capacity building around green drop, blue drop, through our Umgeni Water Learning Academy or Institute of Learning. And we're going to use a lot of these skills and placing them in terms of upgrading process controllers, plant operators, artisans, and skilled and analysts in the municipalities. And a lot of the functions that need to be performed is going to be identification of leaks, infrastructure protection, because we've got a lot of damage to infrastructure, customer communication, as well as some geospatial intelligence. And we're going to be partnering with the municipalities to undertake this work, get earlier reporting of leaks, get earlier responses to leaks in the system, and getting teams out there earlier. And the benefits we're going to see are threefold. We're going to start looking at the employability, increasing the employability. We're also going to be addressing youth unemployment and job creation, because we want to train people to be employable, not to just add to the unemployment statistics. And we also want to see an increase in the sector skills and the placement of graduates. We're also looking at targeting small to medium enterprises to help manage leaks on a sustainable basis and water loss in wards and taking it right down to ward level. So we're not wanting to do it from afar and want to get involved in partnerships. And what are we doing to address this? As I said, we're looking at the billing and revenue. In many cases, people are just not receiving bills, meters are not being read, or they're being inaccurately read. We also, as I said, will look at partnering to address the water losses. We also would be looking at developing the future professional skills to address the poor poor stats that I just showed in those graphs. And we also want to we are partnering with the TVETs to look at capacitating the lecturers. And then lastly, not just train people, but also mentor and coach them on an ongoing basis after the training has taken place. The strategic recommendations, I would say that we need to look at, the municipalities need to look at developing and flexible technical education systems and partnering with institutions such as the Umgeni Water Services, Institute of Learning. We need to look at digital infrastructure in terms of leak management and meter reading and smart water solutions, basically. We also need to look at really building the strong partnerships and strengthening engagement with the industry. That's the summary of what we think should be done and we are doing at the moment. Thank you, Vera.
Thank you so much for that overview, and also it's really great to see how Umgeni Water and it made it very clear why you have an interest in that. So yeah, I like that slide to say in the end it all comes down to it culminating in Umgeni Water not getting the money from its water users, from its customers, if we fail with this. So fantastic work you're doing at Umgeni Water Services. I think you're getting a lot of claps there. So that's it's really great. I think what I would like to now do is move over to Mr. Markus Titte from Gersthofen in Germany, and I think he's going to share with us, or I'd like him to share with us, how a German wastewater treatment plant, how they operate, and where their focus lies, and what type of people they employ to make sure that the wastewater treatment plant keeps functioning. So over to you, Markus.
Thank you very much, Vera. First of all, I have to say some words about me. First of all, I was reading that I was the plant manager at the wastewater station of Gersthofen. That's not right. I'm also not the second plant manager. I'm a normal skilled worker of the wastewater treatment of Gersthofen. So I was not a manager or anything. I learned this job before 20 years ago. I start with them. And for now, I stay 20 years in Germany in the wastewater station in Gersthofen. Also, my English is not that well as I wish, but I think it's enough to explain you everything that you want. Also, maybe good to know, I was not study or something. I was normally at the middle school and finished after them, and then I starting with learning this job. This job in Germany, it's called Specialist for Wastewater Technology. I learned it for around 3 years. And now, because I'm here for such a long time, for over 20 years, I'm now very well skilled, but we say in our job, we never learned out, so we learn our whole life. So I'm now learning this job for 20 years. So I have a few questions. One of the questions from Peter was, if I understand it right, if we have automation of the sewage plant, maybe we don't need so much skilled workers. That's sometimes right. If you automate many things in the sewage plant, it will be worked from alone, but you also need some guy who works around, who hear anything, smell anything if a pump doesn't run right. So the computer don't say you, the pump don't smell good, let's look at it, maybe there's something, a leak or something is broken. So you need the manpower, also the skilled manpower, to find out if everything works well. In my sewage plant, it's like we built it in 1960. It was the first building. We upgraded then 1980 with a biological cleaning. And we also have running right now some stuff here who's over 40 years old. Then you have to know how to repair the stuff, how to work with the stuff. We have 40-year-old pumps and also sometimes new pumps. And you have to know everything about the old pumps and the new pumps. And that's one point why we have a good education. The education for this job is only if we learn this job for 3 years. What we learn in this 3 years is metalworking, plumbing, electrics, laboratory of wastewater analytics, pump calculation, and we also learned completely to calculation of wastewater treatment plant and the integrable basins. So for me, I learned to build a completely sewage plant by myself. but I'm not study and I'm not do anything like this. I'm a normal middle school and I learned this for 3 years. And also point is you can have skills worker. They can so good skill if they what they have. If you bring them to a new sewage plant, every sewage plant is different. And the only way to learn all the things, how this sewage plant where you're working is, how it works is about the time. So if I go now to other sewage plant, I can you explain maybe how it works, but I can explain you what to do if some types are broken or if the grip chambers doesn't work. You have to stay for a long time to be in the sewage plant, to be a skilled worker on the sewage plant. That's also one point. Yeah, we also have the problem if you have some skilled worker, they work there maybe the whole life and they left the sewage plant, the mindset and the knowledge will go with the man who go finish his work. That's problem we also have here. That's why we looking to get new skilled worker to learn the job and get the knowledge from the people who stay a long time in the sewage plant, that they teach the new guys how the sewage plant will be work. Yeah, also we have here sometimes to get skilled worker for sewage plant is not easy because in Germany it's also if you tell somebody that you work on a sewage plant, they will not be so happy. It'd be like if you tell them you work for BMW. So it's not easy to find worker for the sewage plant, but how I told you, in our sewage plant, in different sewage plants, it's like you have one guy for electricity, you have one guy for plumbing, you have one guy for the lab. In my sewage plant, where I'm happy with it, is we are around 7 people for 40,000 employer. And in our sewage plant, every worker has to do every job. So if one worker is get sick or ill, we have enough skilled workers, they can do the same job like him. For the moment, my 2 managers are sick. So now I am the first manager of the sewage plant because
So you are.
Yeah.
You are the plant manager currently.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm the manager, that's right. Okay. So there's another question about how many people are normal worker like me from the middle school, or how many people are studied who work on a wastewater treatment. So we have from the 7 people who work in my sewage plant, we have one wastewater master. He has studied and learned this job, but the other guys are all skilled worker. They are not studied, they learn this job and do not study. So normally the worker in the sewage plant are not studied, being more finished the middle school and then starting learning a job for 3 years. Also, a question was, how many people did you need to clean the wastewater from 10,000 people? So I was thinking about, so we also have some smaller wastewater treatments with about 5,000 people well connected to this sewage plant. And for 5,000 people, you need maybe one guy, one skilled guy. And then you can tell every 10,000 people who connected more to the sewage plant, you need 1.5 people more. So for example, we are around 40 to 50,000 people who connected to our sewage plant, and we are around 6 people who work here. Yeah, short moment.
No worries.
I also start because why I'm here is I was a test from the Bavarian. We have a climate partnership with Kenya, Gersthofen. So I visit Kenya for around 10 times, and then they told me, the Bavarian state, if I want to teach wastewater treatment in the Kenya Water Institute. So I say, yes, I do it. It was a test because I'm not studied, I'm not a teacher, I'm only a skilled worker of a sewage plant. So I was a test from the Bavarians to teach people from the government, people from Kenya Water Institute, and chiefs of sewage plants. I was teaching about how can run a sewage plant in Kenya. I was there for around 1 week. It worked very well. They have many questions. And I think they also learned a lot. Because to know is, I can see you also have very technology sewage plants. In Kenya, they don't have so much knowledge. In Kenya, they have less manpower, less knowledge on the sewage plant. So they don't have that, like you say, microfiltration or something like this, or grip chamber. They only have less electricity for wastewater. The problem there is nobody was paying for wastewater, so the government also have money for build a good wastewater station. Also, a problem that we have also in Germany is for the public service to work, you don't earn so much money, or if you work for the industry. That's also a problem us. So if you're a skilled worker, sometimes if you want to have more money, you have to go to the industry because the public service don't pay that much like the industry. That's also a big problem why we don't find so much people. Yeah, and also what I want to explain is Cape Town shows some pictures of their pumps where a lot of cable was inside there, some shirts, maybe some other stuff. In Germany, we start to teach to the children and also the kids. They can visit the sewage plant sometimes, and we was explaining them what's is to do in the toilet and what is not right to do in the toilet. So it's very good if you tell them don't do food in the toilet, because then here they come mouses or something to your house. And if you, a good example is there was some children here that we told them that don't do food into the toilet or into the wastewater. And I know a few parents of them, and they come a few days later and say, "What did you tell my children? I was in the kitchen and do some food into the wastewater." And the children told me we was visit the sewage plant and they told us it's not okay to do this in the wastewater. So that maybe that can help you also to invite schools or children to invite sewage plant and tell them what is to do in the wastewater and what is not to do in the wastewater. Maybe for a tip, it worked very well in Germany. We don't have 20 years ago, we have bigger problems with the same thing like you, that they will do cable and everything in the sewage water. But for now, it will help a lot that we teach children around over 20 years now, don't to do this in the wastewater. Yeah, I think that will be the most things from my side, and thanks to be here. Maybe there are some questions for other stuff.
Thank you so much, Marcus, for that. I think it's sort of like it really complemented everything else so well, because to have a real world example of someone who works at the treatment plant, I think is really important. And I think I saw some of the comments. I think Cora Holm from Skion said that it's really important to have people with experience in the real world. And you know, if you've got somebody who is very highly educated but hasn't got the experience and is in charge of something, then things can go wrong. So I also, as background, his German title is Wastewater Treatment Plant Master. So for me, that was a master translated into manager. But I think for the moment, you are the manager of the plant, but it sounds like, you know, you all work really well together at the plant. And I think it will be interesting to reflect on 7 people or six or seven people at a wastewater treatment plant for 40,000 people in the community who receive the water. In South Africa, we do have the challenge that we have such high employment. So I think we tend to have more people at these wastewater treatment plants, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure, you know, what the numbers are. If you do know, perhaps you can put that into the chat as well. Before, I think I would like to answer this one question because it came up from 2 different people, and maybe I can ask, Annette about that. So I think the topic that was raised in there, in the questions, was PFAS. How are we doing with PFAS in South Africa? Are the legislations changing around that? Do we need to consider that in our water treatment yet? And if, you know, we can also obviously ask City of Cape Town to complement that answer, but I first wanted to check on like national policy level with regards to compliance. What is on the cards for that, if you already do have some information on that?
Thanks, Vera. We are including some of these emergent pollutants in the drinking water quality standards and the revised norms and standards being considered at the moment. But we even had a discussion of that yesterday at our portfolio committee in terms of the laboratories and the capability of them to be able to test this product or for these substances. So in terms of the regulatory framework, it's not yet that strongly included. And also, obviously, the laboratories in South Africa to be able to test for these. So for now, we've put it in our drinking water standards. Thanks.
Interesting. Thank you very much. I think that provides a background. In the City of Cape Town, in your wastewater treatment plants, do you test for PFAS on the outgoing, or do you, in your wastewater treatment plants, do you address PFAS at all? I mean, it's quite an advanced cleaning method, so you know, I'm a bit doubtful that that's happening already. Christopher, can you say a couple of words on that, or is that outside of what you are currently looking at?
No, I can talk to that. We have been. We don't test for that in our wastewater plants or our traditional water treatment works. We strictly comply with the license conditions issued to us by DWS and comply with the water standards, drinking water standard. But for our reuse plants, which would take treated wastewater and turn it into drinking water, we have for the last 5 or 6 years been developing a proposed standard for the City of Cape Town's plant in terms of the CEC requirements and all those sort of things. I mean, PFAS is just one of many CECs that we've actually been measuring for the last 3 or 4 years. We have a very comprehensive measurement regime that's been going on, and it has been expensive. We've had to send it to labs all over the world, America, etc. But in terms of our design of our advanced water treatment plants, which would ultimately take the treated effluent from the wastewater treatment plant, we have been considering various options. We will be obviously doing multi-barrier approach. We are led by what they've done in California, what they've done Singapore, Australia, Windhoek. So we've been looking at all these leading plants, and we've been developing these documents and analysis. And we've also appointed various experts from around the world, and we've appointed an international independent advisory panel that looks at these results and these designs, and it also goes through the Water Research Commission. So we've actually been doing this for quite a while to build confidence in what's being proposed, and also because there is that gap in the current standards. But make no mistake, we've not ignored it, and we're looking at it very carefully, and we're coming up with a very comprehensive and conservative sort of barrier log reduction targets and process that we want to implement there. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. I think really interesting. I think especially the link to the direct potable reuse plant. I guess that as PFAS are becoming more important, I guess that will be an important thing to address. So it's great that City of Cape Town is on it. And also it's really good to hear that Department of Water and Sanitation is revising the drinking water guidelines or standards. I think what Annette mentioned or alluded to is quite interesting, with the laboratories not quite having the testing facilities yet for PFAS. I think it's a really, really important aspect. Back in the days when I was an environmental consultant, I contributed to revising the guidelines for the receiving water quality in coastal areas, and we had exactly the same problem, that in the end you have a very low concentration of some pollutant for which we have set a standard, but we don't actually have the capacity to test for that in the laboratory. So I think that's a really interesting, if you've got a standard and you can't measure for it, then we're going ahead without having ticked the basic box. So if you have some technologies that are measuring PFAS, and if this is something that you're doing in Germany from the German listeners, please share in the chat as well. But I think we have come to the end of the webinar. It is 4:30. I'm sure everybody's keen to get home. So I'm going to just say a few words to close. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. And I see that everybody has been posting comments and thank you notes in the chat. I think the audience did enjoy this webinar. It was very, very informative. I find that I always learn something in these webinars, and I really like the collaboration between Germany and South Africa. That's one of our goals, to have that exchange, and I think that was very successful today, to have that exchange. So thank you very much to all the speakers, and I wish you a wonderful evening, and we see you soon, and we will be sharing the presentations. Please bear with me. That will take a week for me to get everything online, and then I will send out a thank you email and send you the recording for this webinar as well. Yeah, thank you everyone. Have a great day. Remaining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.